Hey guys, welcome back to the Tukes and Tires YouTube channel. As always, I'm Zach, and this week we're hacking up some big block Chevelle long tube headers and we're turning them into LS headers to save some money for the C1 Chevelle.
Hey, is that Timmy's?
Yeah, because we're in Canada. So we're going to be turning some big block Chevelle long tube headers into some LS headers. We're going to walk you through why we're doing that, and I thought I'd catch you up to speed of why the car is kind of moved around. My 54 Chevy pickup is sitting up here because I had it at the Toronto Auto Show. So this kind of, lasts where it's sat. Lacey's cat hut is now on it, so she kind of likes it there. So it's kind of the reason why it hasn't moved, because, we cater to friggin' Lacey around here. But I thought I'd tell you what we've done here. So I threw in one of my mock-up blocks. So this is just a aluminum block, and I got some spare parts around. And obviously we're going to be throwing that sweet motor into this car, but just so that we can see that things are going to work out, I threw that in there. So you can see I actually have one of the headers. So this is the other one. That's the easy one. And the whole reason we're doing this is because of the steering shaft stuff. So these are the headers that I bought originally, and when I had it in there and the steering shaft in there, it was going to be way too tight and it was never going to work. So I ended up buying these long tube headers, and I wanted long tube headers anyways, but Chevelle long tube headers are way too expensive. They're like 700 bucks, and I didn't really feel like spending that. Like, these headers that I originally bought were 150, so they were pretty reasonable. They came with all the gaskets and all the hardware and stuff like that. So I thought, hey, that's not too bad. Just in case we can't use them, I'll probably end up using these on the panel truck. So that's what we're gonna end up doing. But I picked up these long tube headers for 100 bucks. So thanks, Aaron, if you're watching this video. I really appreciate it. I almost didn't get these because somebody else was coming to buy them, and then all of a sudden he was like, hey, they're still available. So I'm really happy that I'm able to do this. So I'm hoping this job is gonna be fairly easy. So if you would have watched the altered drag car that I did some work on, you would have seen that we made up headers for that. So I had one flange left over, so I'm going to get some more made up. So I have this LS flange, and it would have been pretty great if I would have had a flashlight around here, but anyways, we'll see what we can see. So I have this one thrown into the car, and the back two runners line up pretty good. Lacey, can you see that? Yep, so that lines up pretty good, but it's just the front two that need to be shortened. So what my plan is hopefully, I'm thinking we can shorten these two tubes a little bit, maybe pull up on them to get them into spot. But just before we actually start cutting into those headers, I just want to give a big shout out to a local business, Sixities Vintage Auto Supply, Shay over there, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. So I've been looking for vintage stuff, like what Bob would have used on this car at the time when they built it. And my buddy Shay, he's got anything pre-60s, and that's kind of the era when they built this thing, what parts would have been available. So I said to Shay, I said, hey, do you have anything that would look good on this race car? I'm looking for some specific stuff because this car sat with no windows for how many years, and the stuff inside is not looking so hot. So Shay was like, hey, why don't you hop on my website, check what's on there. There's a bunch of cool stuff. I'll actually leave a link down below in the description so you can go check out Sixities Vintage Auto Supply. He's posting stuff all the time, going on pics, finding those hard to find parts, rare stuff, and he's just cool stuff. Like one time he had this like awesome steering wheel, and I actually didn't get a chance to buy it. I was actually very disappointed. It was like sparkly gripped steering wheel, red, like metal flake, and I was actually really sad that I didn't get it. But so he was like, hey, hop on my website, check out this stuff. Shay actually ships worldwide, and most of his stuff is actually, all of his stuff is made in the USA parts, so it's like really good stuff. So I said to Shay, I said, there's Stewart Warner gauges in this car. I'd really love to put those back in. And he's like, hey, I got this gauge cluster that has Stewart Warner gauges in it. So this is going to look sweet in the car. I think we're going to change what it's actually in, but this is definitely a great start to get the look in the car. He had another external fuel pressure gauge. Don't know if we're going to use this, but I might, just so that we don't have the fuel going into the car. But there's actually a Stewart Warner one in there. All that stuff's going to look pretty sweet in the car. Shay also has a bunch of tranny and engine mounts, so if Lacey would just stop rubbing her face on it. So I was like, hey, I just need a simple GM mount. So he's like, hey, got you covered. And Shay was also the one that helped me kind of decode what this rear end was and figured out what parts it uses. So he's like, hey, I got brand new NOS wheel cylinders, made in the USA stuff, so that's going to fit on there. He has brake shoes, so that's going to be awesome for when we go to do the brake video. I actually picked up a 4-speed the other day and a scatter shield, so that's going to be going into the car. And I was like, I don't have a shifter. And he was digging around his parts bin and he found this shifter. It's made for a Super T10 or a Muncie, so we're going to have to change the linkages because that's a Saginaw. And the only reason I got the Saginaw because it was cheap, and it's 10 splines, so the 3-speed that's in the car, so if I ever want to switch back and forth, I'll be no issues with the clutch. And so he also had this adjustable speedo cable thing, so that's going to work out pretty sweet for that. But then I was thinking, because, you know, obviously this car has no signals, and we're going to make it so it has signals and lights and all that stuff. But I was like, I need something what they could have maybe used back then if the car would have needed signals, but they wanted it to be lightweight. So I know older stuff usually run these things, and my 54 Chevy pickup is using it. It's these vintage signal switch things. So, you know, it can go both ways. It's got hazard lights and all that. So I think this is going to have the right vibe for the car. It's kind of got an Art Deco vibe. I don't know. I kind of like it. So we're going to hook this up in the car for signals and stuff like that. So definitely go check out Shay's website. I'm going to leave a description, or leave his link in the description down below, and I'll actually throw up a little video of us over there the other night. You can see Shay's face, so you know what he looks like, so you know who you're supporting. But now we're gonna get that header out of the car, see how it works on that flange, and see if we can start cutting some stuff up. So here we go. Okay guys, so this is a little bit of a bonus content. I don't know what video we're throwing this into. A lot of this stuff that we're getting is actually for the Chevelle, so it'll probably be in a Chevelle video. But we are actually at Pre-60s Vintage Auto Supply. Shay is not in the building right now. I'll leave a link down below for his website, so definitely go check that out if you're looking for like steering stuff for older, like pre-60 stuff. He's got it all. He's usually pretty good and pretty reasonably priced, and it's all made in the USA stuff, so it's pretty cool. We got a little pile here. My buddy Kenny, he's got some stuff where he's taking home. So he got some keys, a hubcap. I got this sweet I'm just trying to place. We got this sweet signal switch for the Chevelle, so that's going to work out pretty good. Here's the man himself right now. He is going to be wrapping up these shoes we're getting. We got this whole pile here. We'll probably show it to you at home once we lay it out, because it'll be a lot easier that way. But you know, definitely go check out Shay. He's the man with the parts if you're looking for pre-60s steering stuff. So
pre60s.com.
Pre60s.com. We're going to leave it down in the description down below, so you can go check that out. But let's get back to the main video. Look at friggin' Kenny over there. Okay, so I got that driver's side header actually out of the car now, and we're starting on this one just because it's the one that's going to give us all the issues with the steering and stuff. The other one is super easy. That way then I can get the steering all sorted out. You can actually see the steering wheel and all that steering shaft stuff is sitting over there. So basically it's waiting until we get this done. So I got the flange here, and I made sure I marked it. So I don't know if you can see that. I got it marked out and up. So this will technically go this way. I'll try to line it up the best I can one-handed. Give me a second here. So my plan is we're going to line it up with the back one, and every single one of these is going to have to be moved. But we're going to do basically one at a time. So what my plan is we're going to cut this here, keep these two together, and we're going to work on these two. That way I can scribe a line, and I'm hoping once I cut it that these tubes don't really tweak around. You know, we're going to have to work with it as whatever it does once I cut it. But that way I can shorten this one, get it into position so that these two are the same, and then we can start working on this one and then this one after. No idea how it's going to go, so basically we're just going to start cutting into it, see how it goes. But like I said, we're going to cut it here first, keep these two together, and make these two fit first, and then just see how it goes. So let's start chopping into it. Well, there's no going back now, but mind you, the headers were only $100, so if it works out, it's not too bad of a deal. So what my plan of attack is here, we were going to start from the back. I'm not sure if I said that, but that's what we're doing. I did a scribe line on this just to reference where straight was. That I have no idea if that's going to work. I just thought it was a good idea at the time. So if put this on there the right way, you can see it fits onto the back one. We got a play on the hole in that, so you know it should work out just fine. So this, if I pull on it, I don't know how tight I got this in the vise. We gotta be delicate with this vise because you know we broke it before, but you know she's brand new. But this tube has a lot of movement up. Well, I was pulling on with two hands, but I can pull it up just a little bit. I might even be able to heat it up just to distort it. Maybe a little bit down here just to get it to go up. So if we go up and we cut this down, we should be able to line this up. And I think I'm going to do that for the rest of them. So it should work out not too bad. That center line should keep us somewhat center. I don't know. It kind of moved as soon as I cut it. But basically, I'm going to start chopping into this. Going to try this first one, see if it works. And then I'll put a time lapse on for these other two. So there we go. So I know it's a little hard to see because you're looking directly in the center, but both of those line up in those holes. So we got to cut off there. I just have it tacked for now. I cleaned it the best I could. Obviously these pipes are super rusty, but it is what it is. We heated it up down here in this curve on this tube just to bend it up. And then I took about, I think it was a 1/4 inch out of this section just to bring it down. So now what we're going to do is we don't need the scribe line anymore to keep us straight, so we're going to just cut these flanges off, and then I think we're going to heat them up in these bends to bend it up, and then we'll cut this. I don't know how much we got to cut out of it, but we're going to cut both these off, shorten them down, but we're going to set you up on a time lapse so you can see us do that. So here we go. Alright, well there we have it. I don't know how long it took us to do that, but it wasn't too bad. The welds look half decent. I mean, I don't really care, but if you really cared about it, I guess you'd buy better headers and do this to it, but you know, it is what it is. But you can see that these flanges line up now. Plug wires are going to be questionable. Have no idea how that's going to work. This one is the one that's going to be tricky. We might have to dent in the tube a little bit. But now what we got to do is we got to go bolt this flange to the head, and then we can get this header in there and see where the position is, and we'll tack it in the car once we have the position that we like. So we'll get this in the car and then show you that process. Alright, so we put it in the car and we actually have it tacked in, but I just thought I'd show you guys how we went about this. So we took our flange, and obviously we made sure that we had it the right way, and I've got 3 bolts into it. So you can see I got one in the front, one in the back, and one in the middle. Because when I had these flanges cut, they got a little warped and distorted, so we just want to make sure that it goes up against the head as flat as possible, and the gasket should take up the rest. Mind you, there's no gap at all. We did have to trim these pipes a little bit off the bottom just so that it would actually go in a little bit tighter to it because there was a gap at the top. There's a little bit on these 2 center tubes, but it's like hardly nothing. The welder should take it up. And the whole reason we wanted to get it in the car, because we wanted to make sure for angle-wise, if you understand, for the way they're kind of dangling, we want to make sure that we had enough clearance underneath for the training cross member. And then they got some wicked tubes going on an angle here that are going to be staying in there because I like them. So we had to make sure that we just cleared all that stuff. So now what we're going to do is that we got it tacked enough. We're going to take the header out. This head will actually come off of this engine because it's just sitting on there. And we're going to bring it over to the bench so that I can get some better tacks onto the bottom so that this flange won't move. And we'll fully weld it out from the outside, and then I'll take it off and we'll weld it from the inside, so this header will be all one. But that's one pretty sweet looking Chevelle header, but we'll come back to once we got this thing fully welded up. So here we go. Okay guys, so we got the header fully welded out now. It's looking pretty sweet. You saw me do the outside, the camera actually died, so I did go along and weld the inside of the tube on the inside of the flange once we had it really secure from the outside, and I die grinded a little bit just so that the exhaust could float nicely. But this saved me a bunch of money and a very frustrating problem to have. Obviously, with like exhaust and steering shafts and stuff, there's lots of problems. I'm getting friggin' attacked by a cat here. Holy Toledo, Lacey. Get out. Oh, what do you got going on? You gotta lift the paw. Okay. All right, we're good. I don't have any more flanges for the other side. I'm still waiting on them to get cut, so we can't do that other header. So I figured while we wait, we might as well just go ahead and fix the steering stuff. I know I didn't show taking that out of the car, but hopefully I can find a picture from another video if you can see what it used to look like. They had some kind of like joint on the frame here, and the thing came through the firewall. We're going to change that a little bit. Still kind of running in the same spot, but I got the stuff over at the bench, so I'll show you. Lacey, how you doing? You're situated now? Not stuck to me? Okay. But this is what used to be in the car, and I'm going to try to reuse as much of it as possible. So there's a like dash bar in there, and then this was bolted to it, so we're still going to reuse that. Then there's just this old universal joint that was on the bottom. We're going to have to try to grind that off because I want as much shaft sticking out as possible. But instead of the thing that was on the frame, we're going to be using one of these on the firewall. I kind of like it. It matches the one that's over there. What else we got here? I got a new universal joint for the bottom of that shaft there, so that's going to get put onto here. And then this is the other shaft that used to run forward to the steering box. It has this military joint thing on it. That's what they call this. And they're super expensive, so we're just going to reuse it. Like there was one online for like 400 bucks. It's pretty crazy. But all I got to do is I got to chop this off here. I have a new, so this is 3/4 double D shaft. We're going to be using this slip joint part. So I'm going to get this all off of there, and then we're going to make up a new little piece for that with that universal joint. So I'm going to get this stuff all cut up and situated, and then I'll show you back on the car once we have it all figured out. So here we go. Lacey, what's happening? So we got that steering stuff in there temporarily. I think I'm going to go and end up changing this joint down here. So I ordered one, so we're just waiting on it in the mail. I figured we're changing that one, so we might as well change both. But you kind of see what we got going on here. That's that swivel joint thing from Tractor Supply. It's going to work out pretty sweet. Just got a self-tapper in there just to hold it in there temporarily. We have tons of room to the header, and that's the whole reason why I wanted to build these headers for, you know, the clearance, because the old ones weren't going to work. Yeah, but I think that's where we're going to leave this video for now, because I'm waiting on parts. I'm waiting on some header flanges because I only had the one, and I'm going to be waiting on that steering joint. So you guys will probably see the other header and the steering joint in another video. So, you know, that's a great way to save some money. I don't usually have $1,200 just to throw around on headers or exhaust and stuff like that. Usually maybe like a whole exhaust we would probably put very little amounts of money into. When I was looking online, I think it was anywhere from like $700 to $1,200 for an A-body header, and these ones were $100 on Facebook Marketplace. So, you know, we didn't have any fancy tools. I used a grinder. I, you know, used just a MIG welder. We plastered these things together. They do not look too bad, but they're not like, you know, top-notch quality, but they're good enough for me, and probably most of everybody at home would be okay with that as well. Yeah, so that's going to be it for this video. We are actually getting ready for a show if you're local to the area. It's in Toronto. It's Toronto Motorama. So we're going to be there this coming weekend when this video comes out. So it's going to be March 10th to the 12th. We're going to have a booth. You can come grab a free sticker. We're going to be selling shirts. You can come meet me in person. All this seating is actually for the booth, so you guys can come plant your butts on something comfortable at the show, just not a plastic chair that they have in the food court. But yeah, so if you're in the area, come by. You can support the channel that way. We do have a website. If you can't make it to the show, we sell shirts and everything online, so it's in the link down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Hopefully we'll get to something cool next on the Chevelle in another video, but that's going to do it for now. So as always, don't forget to salute the beaver.